So, this is a question that I get asked all of the time, which is who is the fearful avoidant attachment styles kryptonite in relationships? So, in this video, I'm going to take you through exactly what the answer is, and I'm going to give you some context in terms of how it depends sometimes on the stage that the fearful avoidant is in with somebody else. So, first and foremost, if you're not already familiar, the fearful avoidant attachment style is also sometimes referred to as the disorganized attachment style. And essentially, this is because the fearful avoidant doesn't really have an organized way of attaching to somebody because in childhood, they get a lot of mixed messaging. So, sometimes a caregiver might be safe, sometimes they might be able to connect to a caregiver, receive empathy, have their needs be met. And other times, if the caregiver is going through their own personal challenges, which a lot of times the caregivers of a fearful avoidant attachment style are, then what you'll see instead is the caregiver can be really hard to trust, can be really inconsistent, and sometimes cause the fearful avoidant to feel a lot of fear and uncertainty. And so, fearful avoidants already have this kind of push pull dynamic within how they experience relationships themselves. And this will lead into the kryptonite piece that we're going to talk about in just a little bit here. So, one of the first things is we have different stages of relationships. We have the dating stage, the honeymoon stage, then we go into the power struggle stage. And then if we make it through the power struggle stage, which is where a lot of relationships end up falling apart, and we will then enter into the stability, commitment, and bliss stages of relationships. So generally in the dating stage, the very early stage, the fearful avoidance kryptonite often is the anxious preoccupied. In fact, the fearful, avoidant, and anxious preoccupied, they tend to really hit it off. Like it can really feel like getting along like a house on fire. Like they can really deeply connect because both of them share these different ideas and concepts about how the anxious preoccupied, they can make the fearful avoidant feel really seen and heard and deeply connected to, and vice versa. And they both tend to really pour into the relationship in the early stage. However, this is not where this ends. Oftentimes, as the dating stage goes on, because the fearful avoidant has a really avoidant side, the anxious preoccupied can actually polarize the fearful avoidant into their more avoidant side. So often I'll see the first few weeks of a dating stage between an anxious preoccupied and fearful avoidant go really, really well. And then eventually the fearful avoidant kind of drops off, pulls away, sometimes gets cold feet, feels overwhelmed because they really fear losing themselves in this relationship because of their tendency towards codependency and enmeshment. And when fearful avoidants feel like they're losing their sense of self and freedom and independence or autonomy because there's too much demand and too many expectations in a relationship with somebody else, this can cause them to get cold feet very, very fast. So, this would actually disqualify the anxious preoccupied from being the long term kryptonite for fearful avoidance in relationships. Now, I think it's important to make an honorable mention to say that fearful avoidants are often drawn to the mystery of dismissive avoidance. On the other hand, there, and they may often fall into a space where they are really interested in kind of cracking the code with a dismissive avoidant and getting them to open up and deepen the connection and seeing what's really going on and what this person is really feeling. And sometimes fearful avoidance can be drawn to the intermittent reinforcement of the dismissive avoidant attachment style, but that's not their kryptonite either in a relationship. So then we have two attachment styles left. We have the securely attached style, which generally fearful avoidants tend to actually not be too attracted to, largely because the fearful avoidance subconscious comfort zone is one of chaos. And so when somebody's too stable, too consistent compared to what they're used to, because we generally get very much attracted to our subconscious comfort zone of what's familiar, the securely attached style will sometimes cause the fearful avoidant to feel like they also have cold feet. They may get bored or restless or have a hard time even believing that somebody could be so stable in this kind of relationship dynamic. So often I will see this relationship between a fearful avoidant and securely attached style fizzle out quickly. So what is left? Well, generally, the fearful avoidance real kryptonite in relationships are other fearful avoidant attachment styles. Because both fearful avoidants have the capacity to really see each other deeply, to pour into the relationship, to be really generous and to be really present and connected and to really build that deep connection. And also because fearful avoidants tend to be drawn to people who also appreciate novelty or spontaneity or exploration and sort of having fun and living in the moment. And so fearful avoidants can kind of share that the vast majority of the time. But then they don't overwhelm overwhelm each other because usually one person is kind of swinging into the opposite side of their attachment style. So, for example, if we have a fearful avoidant who's feeling anxious and they're clinging to the other fearful avoidant, that may cause that fearful avoidant to sort of become dismissive. But then eventually the other fearful avoidant will probably also sort of swing into their dismissive side, causing the other fearful avoidant to be anxious. And so this pinballing, while it is absolutely exhausting for both fearful avoidants involved, tends to kind of keep this spin on things where the fearful avoidants will likely get into this roller coaster relationship with each other but not really get bored of it. And sometimes we'll see these relationships only ever really fizzle out because there's actually been too much damage done over time, too many harsh critical words said, too many, inconsistencies and patterns, too many sort of trust wounds that get magnified in this relationship dynamic. But as a general rule, fearful avoidants really deeply attached to each other because they have so many similarities, but because also they actually mirror back each of the fearful avoidance subconscious comfort zone because of the roller coaster, because of the chaos, which, remember, if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that the fearful avoidant attachment style is very much drawn to what it knows, right? All attachment styles are very much drawn to our own subconscious comfort zone from childhood. So if we had a lot of the ups and downs, we'll also be attracted to that in our adult lives because our subconscious mind says, yes, that didn't feel good. Yes, that was unhealthy, but we survived. And so it's working. So let's keep reinvesting in that because at the end of the day, your subconscious mind is just very much wired for survival. So to summarize, we will generally see that fearful avoidance are each other's kryptonite in relationships. And we may see these relationships actually last for quite a long time and be kind of almost addictive to one another because there's a lot of that intermittent reinforcement. There's a lot of that depth. There's a lot of ability to really see each other, but they don't cause each other to get too much into that dismissive avoidance side too early, so that relationship can kind of pick up steam beyond the dating and honeymoon stage. And then usually we'll see it kind of break down in the power struggle stage. But sometimes we'll see coming out of this relationship dynamic, people will really hold on to the connection from the past. So they'll really hold on to what that relationship was, even long after that relationship has broken up. So I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What are your experiences as a fearful avoidant with other fearful avoidant attachment styles? And please let me know any other questions you might have so that I can, if you want to post them in the comments below, I can create more content. And if you are healing from a relationship right now or trying to really move through a breakup, please, you can check out for free for 7 days. Please feel free to check it out. If you cancel before the 7th day, you'll never get charged anything, but there's a course for you and it's called How to Heal from a Breakup. And it's designed to really fast track your healing. So you don't have to get stuck in that stage of feeling weighed down and grieving. If you're coming out of a relationship or, any kind of situationship, anything like that, where it didn't work out and that's something you're trying to process, it will really speed up that processing time so you can get back to your full self again and feel good again much more quickly. So you can check that out in the link in the description box down below. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this channel. And I can't wait to see you in future videos.